He's not going to win a track meet, but he's going to get north and south. You watch his film, I would say, like, looking at him, probably just over like a 4.640 type guy. 5.3 yards per carry this last year at Southeastern Louisiana, 1,228 yards, ranked as the eighth most rushing yards in the FCS, 11 yards shy of breaking the season school record at Southeastern Louisiana. He had 230 carries, last year, recorded 11 touchdowns to lead the Southland Conference and averaged a 5.3 yards per rush.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Maw. John Kurtz, Derek Young, Cole Manbeck, all with you today. Going to talk some football, specifically running backs, because K-State has added a new running back to the room. Commit that we knew was coming, had kind of hinted at for a little while there, but with the medical retirement, in essence, of Gabe Ervin, who was a transfer that was brought in from Nebraska, K-State has replaced that and beefed up the depth in the room, which calls for a toast from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Whether it is Ben Holiday, bottled in bond bourbon, or 360 vodka, make sure that you get out and get stocked up for whatever it is that you're going to be doing the rest of this spring or this summer. If you're going to be at the lake a lot, it is the perfect couple of things to have on hand. Ben Holiday, bottled in bond bourbon, and 360 vodka from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Great K-State folks who support us here on the show, so please go support them as well. Gentlemen, welcome back in, getting everybody together today. We've got football transfer portal. I won't really say heating up. It's kind of sputtering to the end, but K-State with a big addition here, and Antonio Martin, who is a running back with a really interesting past, to be honest. Started his career at Georgia Tech, then went to Blinn Junior College, which obviously multiple K-State connections there. Michael Bishop, Quincy Morgan. Eventually lands at Southeast Louisiana, where he had 1,200 yards rushing last year, enrolled at Louisiana Monroe, and now is pulling out of that to come be a Kansas State Wildcats through the transfer portal. So bigger back, depth piece that obviously got a lot of experience last year. I think, I don't know, is there much to complain about here? I'm definitely happy with this ad.
No, if you told me they were going to get a back, even if it was at the FCS level, that had 1,200 yards of production last year at this point in the calendar, once you kind of, in essence, swung and missed on Gabe Ervin, I would have said that's a home run. So I'll call it a home run if nobody else does. Really big back, 5'11", 220 pounds about. That sounds about right, I think. And so you're getting someone that's got a lot of bulk to him and can probably be that physical between the tackle, short yardage guy. Yeah, thick with 2 C's. There you go, John. Thank you. That they were probably lacking just because Joe Jackson hasn't shown to be the most durable back, even in a short amount of playing time the past couple of years. Dylan Edwards is a little bit slight of build, so I don't think you want him throwing him against a wall repeatedly. And then the other 3 are all freshmen, quite frankly, whether that's redshirt freshmen, Devon Rice and J.B. Price, or true freshman Montario Elston. And besides Price, those other 2 are pretty slight of build as well. So add a little bit of size to the room, maybe a little bit more durability, definitely more maybe experience and maturity, which maybe that room could use as well after the losses of DJ Giddens, Evan Cantu, and LaJames White. So you really had a shortage of running backs actually on the roster, quite frankly, because not only did you lose DJ Giddens and Gabe Ervin had to medically retire, but the walk-ons basically bolted because they wanted an opportunity elsewhere for perhaps more playing time. So this was a heavy position of need, even if not really you can tell on the surface, just because you know that Kansas State wants to rely on Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson. But I can make an argument that Antonio Martin could play more than what meets the eye as well, because like I said, Dylan Edwards is more of an all-purpose back than a running back, right? That's what I would consider him as. So, half of his snaps may not even be in the backfield. They could be elsewhere. You're going to probably see him all over the field. And then you got Joe Jackson, which is he the most durable guy that can handle every other carry outside of that? Probably not. And though Kansas State has been fortunate in the last couple of years because DJ Giddens was so durable, like it is common for a running back to miss a couple games each season. That's just the nature of the position. So I could see Antonio Martin getting more carries, more touches, and more snaps than what maybe people realize.
Well, to that point, Joe Jackson was a redshirt freshman last year, had 39 carries for 227 yards, average of 5.8 yards per rush, and then obviously only 4 carries as a true freshman when he redshirted. So 43 career carries, 6 receptions in his career. Most touches he's had in a game are 10, and they occurred in the bowl game versus Rutgers, and Cincinnati last year did so twice. And then D.Y. Dylan Edwards, 74 carries last year for 546 yards and 19 receptions. Had 76 carries as a true freshman at Colorado, along with 36 receptions. And the most touches Dylan had in a game was 10 until the bowl game versus Rutgers, when he had 20 combined touches between receptions and rushing attempts. So, combined, Dylan and Joe last year had 109 carries. And you look at a guy like DJ Giddens, who had 223 rushing attempts in 2023 and 205 this past season, along with a combined 50 receptions the last 2 years. So you're going to be looking at a significant jump forward in terms of, just total touches for Dylan and Joe. And are they going to be able to hold up with those numbers without a third running back that can take a little bit of the load off? And I think that's why, a guy like Antonio Martin Jr. was so coveted by this coaching staff, and why they wanted a third running back with some experience. Now, that's not discounting the opportunity that Montario Elston, J.B. Price, Devon Rice may have. One of those hopefully can break out a little bit as well. But, you really like the addition with Antonio Martin Jr. because he's that bigger physical running back. You mentioned the DY, 5'11", 220 pounds. He's not going to win a track meet, but he's going to get north and south. You watch his film, I would say, like, looking at him, probably just over like a 4.6 40 type guy. 5.3 yards per carry this last year at Southeastern Louisiana, 1,228 yards, ranked as the eighth most rushing yards in the FCS, 11 yards shy of breaking the season school record at Southeastern Louisiana. He had 230 carries, last year, recorded 11 touchdowns to lead the Southland Conference, and averaged to 5.3 yards per rush that I just mentioned. Now, you look at his game logs, he has a couple games where he had a couple rushes over 50 yards, but aside from that, he's a guy that's churning out more 5 to 10 yard type carries. He had a game this year against Tulane, which was, pretty good competition. We saw what Tulane's been the last couple of years. 13 carries for 68 yards, 5.2 yards per rush. Longest run was 11 yards in that game. And they had 15 carries for 93 yards against Southern Miss, another FCS team or FBS team. And he averaged 6.2 yards per rush in that game. Was one of 35 finalists for the Walter Payton Award, which is essentially the Heisman Trophy of the FCS. And the first non-quarterback in Southeastern Louisiana's program to be named a finalist for that award. So you like the addition. I mentioned the physicality. PFF, Pro Football Focus, had him at 3.5 yards after contact this last season, which is a really good number. And that's what you're going to be looking for him to get, is to get some of those hard-nosed, tough yards.
Yeah, and I mean, Cole, you brought up the younger guys there. Like, yes, they do have younger running backs on the roster, but this, if anything, is just like insurance in case one of those guys just isn't ready to step up and really hit. It would be asking a lot, I think, to hope that one of those guys would be ready to step in to be like a full-time third running back there, and then you're one injury away from them all of a sudden being really, really thrust into the spotlight. So this makes a ton of sense in a lot of different ways. And DY, I think it was you were even talking about recently, like just the sheer raw numbers in terms of running backs on the roster now that you lost some of the walk-on types with the roster cuts and everything that had to happen. That is another way that this really, really helps the room.
Yeah, they had a numbers problem. They had to get more guys in the room. To be honest, I can make an argument that they could still use another one, but it would be more of the walk-on type, and that's probably just, I don't know if that's possible or that situation exists in a roster limit days of 105. So it's something you're going to have to get used to. I wonder if practice has changed a little bit.
Quick question on that, DY, because I've had people ask me this now too. I mean, now it sounds like the 105 is not really going to be a thing this year. They're having to come up with a way in court to grandfather it in. So I don't know. Could somebody still come back? Could they sneak somebody else back in on the roster?
They could, but I think the running backs kind of left willingly to go get other opportunities. Evan Cantu, I think, left in December or January, even before the bowl game. maybe, if I remember correctly. And James White just left. I think it was on his own volition as well. I think he was presented like a scenario or, an opportunity to come back, and he basically balked at the idea. So running back wise, probably not. I realize that maybe the 105 doesn't happen as soon as this year, but in the day that it does, and you only have 5 or 6 running backs total on your roster, I'm just thinking out loud here because it just came to mind, especially when you're maybe talking spring ball, training camp, and then on top of that, you're during the game week practices. Is 5 or 6 running backs really enough to get tackled every day in practice? I don't know. You're probably going to have to change up your practice habits to keep guys healthy if you only have 5 or 6 backs.
I think it's enough from a scholarship standpoint, but to your point, you need probably a walk-on or 2 running back.
But you can't really fit that into the 105 scenario.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I just wanted to say, I think 5, 6 scholarship running backs is what most teams probably have, but they walk-on or 2 in case they, doesn't have that now, and that's happened to a lot of programs.
Your scout team running backs every week that are going to get hit every day in practice are the freshmen that you guys even talked about maybe relying on.
Well, and that's probably another conversation that coaches are going to have to map out, and Chris Kleiman too, or how physical are you in practice moving forward with the roster limit? Because you have 25 to 30 less players, special teams and all of that. Are you going to have to take a little bit of the load off and be like OTAs at the professional level at the NFL in some of these practices because you're just working with less on the roster and you don't want guys to get hurt? We know Chris Kleiman is very cognizant of that. Just another quick thing on Antonio Martin Jr., guys. I think this is a nice call out. I mean, in the 2022 recruiting class, he was the number 374 player nationally and a 4-star in the on-Bree consensus rankings, the number 29 running back and number 34 player in the state of Georgia. He signed with Georgia Tech, as you mentioned, John, out of high school, redshirted in 2022, but he listed offers I don't know how many of these were committable, but Alabama, Michigan, Miami, Tennessee, Florida, Florida State, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Regardless, there is some pedigree there from a talent perspective. This isn't a kid that just ended up at the FCS level and is working his way up. He moved down to that level. He went to Blinn Community College, as John mentioned, ran for 603 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2023, and then onward to Southeastern Louisiana. Now, if you had a little bit of a concern, you'd be like, all right, well, that's a lot of colleges in just 3 years, right? I mean, he went to Georgia Tech, then he goes to Blinn, then he goes to Southeastern Louisiana, and he didn't commit to K-State from Southeast Louisiana. He entered the portal in the winter, and he went to Louisiana Monroe. So he's been at Louisiana Monroe the last 4 months. He didn't play, obviously, and hit the spring portal window and is now at K-State. So it's going to be his 5th school in about 3 years. But again, he is working his way back up to this level. So it is understandable to hit the portal a couple times if an opportunity presents itself to get to play at the Big 12 level.
Yeah, just seems like a guy that's, look, Cole, nobody stays in jobs more than a year anyway these days. And, he's a little bit of a job jumper trying to improve his position, but that's okay. We're used to seeing that on resumes now. I don't know. You're important. Don't you hire people?
Nah, I'm not that important. So.
Okay,
but yeah,
that's why they pay you the big bucks these days. But I don't know what it is you're doing there in the day job. All right, DY, I'm cheating today because I can already see that you got Cincinnati home field apparel on. It was sticking up just enough
for no particular reason.
Okay, I was trying to figure it out. I was about to guess.
No, John, I was being sarcastic. They swept KU over the weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, this is where I don't have the bandwidth to keep up with the baseball. That's why I asked Cole, what is the percentage chance that K-State makes a regional?
Well, since we brought up K-State baseball, 2 straight losses will come now again, as it seems happens every time on the show. No, I would say it's probably 50-50, John. The thing about Cincinnati sweeping KU that actually could be bad for K-State, it does jumble the Big 12 picture quite a bit, but it also put Cincinnati ahead of K-State in the RPI. Cincinnati jumped about 20 spots in the RPI from 57 to 42. K-State's now 45th or 46th in the RPI. And when we talked about K-State baseball for the first time on the show 5-6 weeks ago, John, they were 15th in the RPI. So it's been a significant fall. Won a couple in a row where they blew out BYU, who was top 55, top 60 in the RPI. road wins are important, but I would say, to put a number on it, they got to go at a minimum 3-3 over the last 6 games to get into the NCAA tournament as a 3 seed type. And that includes playing West Virginia at home this weekend, who's 38-7 and atop the Big 12 at 17-4 in league play. And then going on the road to Cincinnati Bearcats, to DY's Bearcats there, who is now top 45 in the RPI. So you got to go 3-3 in those. You go 2-4, I think they're out.
Is Kansas in for sure?
Yeah, they're top 30 in the RPI. They'll be in. Now, this weekend probably killed their chances of hosting. I mean, they had a legit shot to host if they had kept it up.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, good work there, DY. I mean, it looks great. If you want your own Cincinnati home field apparel shirt, just go to homefieldapparel.com. We'll even give you 15% off your first order using promo code 3MOD24. But there's tons of K-State gear there as well, like Cole's hat that he has on right now. Homefieldapparel.com has 50-plus K-State designs there. They're always adding to it. Our closet's now stocked full with that, and you see it all over the place in college athletics. Everybody is wearing home field apparel. We are trying to hook you up, people. 3MOD24 for 15% off your first order, and we're back in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Are you ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Well, check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, and yeah, that includes prize picks. Hit all of your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6, plus even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players get 50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Here's what you gotta do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offers. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
How about this, DY? I'm going to put you on the spot here. You have a player comp for Antonio Martin? You got like a K-State back in recent memory, or a college football back, Big 12 back, somebody in recent memory?
Man, I don't know, because I only had 2 years of Snyder, then it's been Chris Kleiman era fully for me. So I'm trying to think of even a 5'11-ish to 20-pound back that we've had in just that narrow time frame, which I think was going on my 9th season of K-State football.
Cole?
Yeah, John, I'm racking my brain right now on
even like the first ones, like were James Gilbert, and he wasn't that big. Yeah,
James Gilbert, he was probably like similarly sized, right?
He had some physicality to him for sure. I think he was probably like 210, 205.
James Gilbert was listed. Oh, wow. He was 5'9", 200. Okay.
He's shorter. Jordan Brown was shorter and quicker. Then after that was basically the Deuce Vaughn era. So,
we and at K-State, we'd become quite accustomed to having smaller running backs like Deuce Vaughn, obviously, and Darren Sproles and John Hubert. not the tallest running backs in the world or biggest running backs.
It went from the James Gilbert, Jordan Brown, Harry Trotter, Deuce Vaughn, DJ Giddens, basically, right?
Well, and DJ is a big running back, right? I mean,
yeah, he ran so upright that these two couldn't be more different.
Yeah, and then you've got, you had Mike McCoy. Now, I think McCoy, from talent perspective,
but he's also like 6'3", so.
Yeah, he's taller. And I think McCoy more explosive than Antonio Martin when you watch the film.
Mike McCoy is a brick. Yeah.
I mean,
Cole, look at I just looked up who I found is a very similar size, 6 foot 220 listed at.
Daniel Thomas back in the day.
Same first name. I didn't look up Daniel Thomas actually.
Another running back with the name of Daniel.
From earlier in the 2000s.
Oh, Daniel Davis, 5-star running back transfer out of JUCO.
Yeah, that's correct. He's basically the same size as Daniel Davis, who I looked up had less than 300 rushing yards in his K-State career. Unfortunately,
I was excited for him, John. Like,
at the tail end of Snyder was what, Alex Barnes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man, look, there's some bigger running backs. Look at this.
Boy, Daniel Thomas was 6'2", 230. So
yeah, well, and Daniel Thomas, I covered those teams, and he just an all around stud. I mean, really, just a guy that kind of easy to forget because he played on the 2009 and 2010 teams. But without him, who knows where the Bill Snyder 2.0 era goes? I mean, he was really the key cog and getting that going and getting him to 6-6 that first year, and then getting him to a bowl in year 2.
Alex Barnes really underrated during that tail end there too, because he had several actually 200-yard games, but he's a lot leaner than Antonio Martin.
Yeah, Cole and I were never ever frustrated with Alex Barnes' usage rate back then. Not a thing that ever happened.
They gave him the ball like 30 plus times a game, but they also couldn't really do a whole lot else.
Oh, and that was sarcasm, because what year was that, Cole? One of those years, was it 17?
Yeah,
so it's probably because at 18, I would argue that he probably got the ball too much.
It was either 17 or 16, John, when I think he averaged like 7.5, 8 yards a carry. I mean, his yards per carry average.
That was right before me. Yeah. Still 16.
And so I don't know if it was 7.5, 8 yards a carry. I can't recall, but he ran for like 800 yards, and it felt like every time he touched the ball, it was a surefire 5 yards. But they kept, they would take him back off the field after a couple touches, and I'm trying to remember who was was it Charles Jones? Was the other?
I was gonna say, I'm sure it was probably still Charles Jones at that point, siphoning carries away.
I entered the year where everyone was complaining about the season prior to that. Then Barnes did get more touches, but then everyone started complaining about the Skylar Delton thing, so it just pivoted to a different position, really. But I remember that, because the reason why I say Alex Barnes just got so many touches, I remember, I think it was 18, maybe it was 17, but I think it was 18, where K-State went to Baylor. I think the score ended up like 45-40 or something like that. Jalen Hurd had like 400 total yards, but Alex Barnes had almost 300.
Yeah, and K-State lost that game in frustrating fashion. Just another one of those losses that was infuriating.
Was that the final Bill Snyder year?
2018 was.
Yeah.
So that game, I don't know if that game was.
It was at the end of the year, toward the end.
I've got some numbers for you here. So Alex Barnes, he averaged 23 touches a game in 2018. So that was quite a bit. But Cole, you were almost spot on. I can't remember. What did you say? So he averaged in 2016 7.9 yards per rush, but only got 56 carries.
Yes. So he didn't qualify for the if you look at the Sports Info media guide, like your best yards per carry averages in their college football career at Kansas State. He isn't listed on there for that season because he only had 56 carries, and the minimum was 100. So like DJ's season this year was top 3 in school history in yards per carry average, and Alex Barnes isn't listed there because 56 carries for basically 8 yards a carry. So what did he have like that year, John? Like 430. What's that come out to be? 434, 500,
442. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Nice professional move there to send us down the memory lane there to add some time to the show, because
you know what, it's May, dude. Like we got 3 months to the season. Yeah,
we could do a whole show on it, or probably it would take more than one show on that 2018 season. That thing went so many different directions.
Maybe that could be a show idea, guys, for
It was just a hilarious season. Yeah.
we had John getting yelled at in press conference by Bill Snyder. We had the situation after the game in Morgantown. Were you there for that DUI at West Virginia in 2018?
Cole and I were. I remember complaining to Cole about it right before Bill's press conference.
Yeah, remember that was the game where I think K-State lost 35-6 or something like that. And John, you were and Bill basically Skyler played at quarterback, and Bill basically called Skyler soft for like a quarterback sneak that didn't work, or they didn't run a quarterback sneak. I can't remember, but it was something like that. And he basically implied that Skyler was soft. You remember that, John, in the post-game presser?
Yeah, I mean, I remember what I remember about that year is that after almost every single post-game press conference, I was like sprinting back up to the press box because I was like, holy shit, Bill just said this. I got to get this out on the internet. Like, what is happening? Because then there was also Zuber. You know, he threw Zuber under the bus at TCU.
Threw Zuber under the bus at TCU. Reason why I think the Barnes game against Baylor that we mentioned might have been 17, because I think because I'm trying to remember.
The Barnes game was 18, and
there was a Baylor. Then this might have been it. After the Baylor game, Kellis tried to ask about special teams, and Bill acted like he couldn't hear him.
He Marshawn lynched him. He said next question over and over again
because it was the game at Fort Worth at TCU in 2018 when you mentioned the Zuber thing, John. But like special teams, multiple gaps. I mean, there was a dropped hold on an extra point, and they lost by 1, and the special teams coach wasn't called out. So for that, but Zuber was. So
yeah,
tough punt. So anyways. It was a wild season. I guess we're kind of going down the rabbit hole of 2018 now. Love Bill Snyder and what he did, obviously, for Kansas State. And this isn't to come off as ungrateful or anything. That was just, it was time, as we all know. For
his loss to Rob was just entertaining. We'll put it that way.
I don't know. It was a drag, though. I remember talking to another media. I vividly remember we were getting ready to go in for a Tuesday press conference, and another media member was like, you know, it just feels like when we walk through these doors, it's like the same feeling you had when you were going to school back in the day and you just like dreaded walking into that class and you were just like, oh, this is going to be a drag. If that is like what those press conferences felt like, you're just like, it was very combative and yeah.
Yeah, because he had the Tuesday one where he went at you for the Skyler questions. And then that Iowa State game, geez Louise, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You were up by 4 touchdowns, right? And lost?
Yeah, you know, people were mad at me for asking him about retirement after that game. I was like, we're literally not going to get another chance to talk to the guy before this decision is made. I'm sorry. Yeah, all sorts of memories coming back 2018, man. Well, the Texas game, I mean, the reason I asked this guy the questions, the Texas game, he told us who starts at quarterback doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the outcome of the game. So,
oh my gosh, I remember that too. We were all stunned in the press conference from that.
Well, I wasn't there. I couldn't ask the question then because I was out doing a TV game. I was listening to it on the radio. I was like, well, somebody grab them.
Right. You were texting. You were texting me. I was sitting in the press conference. So you're like, Cole, you have to like ask a follow-up on that. So,
yeah.
I think I was like tuned out because I don't even remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That happened. Definitely happened. Okay. We'll talk a little more running backs coming up next.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, so how we feeling on this room? Like scale 1 to 10, running back room going into the season. No DJ Giddens, but you got Dylan Edwards, you got Joe Jackson, and now you've got a FCS Heisman contender and Antonio Martin to add to the room here, who has a little bit of exercise.
Yeah, the addition of Martin probably knocks it up a couple numbers for me. I'll say like 7, 8-ish. I can't quite go more than that until maybe I see, an extended body of work in the primary roles from each of Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson. Look, I'm the biggest Dylan Edwards fan out there. He's so explosive. He's a firecracker with a ball in his hands. And I hope they find more and better ways to use him and his gifts because they are fun to watch. And I think Joe Jackson kind of showed you in the bowl game what he's capable of, but probably need just maybe more extended body of work for me to go completely overboard and say that this room is amazing or stuff of that nature. But adding the insurance and Antonio Martin certainly makes me feel better. Without that, I probably would have been a little bit uneasy with how this thing might have unfolded. Because then worst case scenario, without Martin, if you didn't get Martin, worst case scenario would have been a little bit troubling for in a year where they're going to be expected to compete and contend for a Big 12 championship. So I feel better. I don't feel amazing, but I feel better.
It just gives you the ability to utilize Dylan Edwards more in the way that you really want, which you mentioned DY as an all-purpose type running back. You know, like John, we had Matt Wells on the show, 6-8 weeks ago, and when we brought up getting Dylan Edwards involved more in the passing game, you could tell he lit up about that, and that is something they clearly want to do. And in the bowl game against Rutgers, how many, 2-3 times they took deep shots to Dylan down the sideline and could have hit him on a couple, because that's when Matt Wells was like, gosh darn it, Dave, on the show with us. Like, I think they're going to do some more creative things with Dylan Edwards in the passing game this year. I'm really excited to see what Matt Wells brings to the offense for him specifically, because last year, very frustrated with how they utilized him in the passing game and generally overall. I mean, 74 carries for him was not enough, especially when you look at his total body of work and the fact that he averages 7.4 yards per carry. I mean, Johnny just mentioned 7.9 for Alex Barnes and 56 carries. Dylan Edwards had 74 carries and 7.4 yards per rush. Now, I also recognize that was boosted some in the bowl game when he averaged almost 11 yards per carry against Rutgers, but he was solid for the most part all year. They got to figure out more creative ways to get Dylan involved. And the fact that you add an Antonio Martin Jr. to the fold, you know, there were times when they had Joe Jackson and Dylan on the field together last year, and there were times they had DJ Giddens and Dylan on the field last year at the same time. So you got to have a third running back that you can bring in a pinch as you need it. And yeah, I think Antonio Martin Jr. is going to be that guy. If you watch his film at Southeastern Louisiana, they line him up in the Wildcat and go direct snap to him at the goal line multiple times. The 3.5 yards after contact, like, he's going to be that guy that you may rely on more in a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 2nd and short type goal line situations, and take some of the wear and tear off of those guys. And then also, you know, maybe you put him on the field and you motion Dylan out wide. So I guess overall grade for running back room, I'd probably go like a 7, like DY 2, because I still have a little uneasiness just about, you know, injuries and, you know, Joe and Dylan not being built the biggest in the world, but this certainly makes me feel better about where they're at. I think it was a necessity to add a running back in the portal.
Yeah, I think you guys are spot on. I would have said 7, with the potential, you know, for maybe 8 or 9 if things all go well. But before, you would have been looking at a pretty low floor, you know, depending on what could have happened there. And Cole, I love the point. Just, it helps out Matt Wells a lot. It kind of handcuffs him in terms of like, hey, whatever you want to do with the offense, whatever you want to do with Dylan, however creative you want to get with that, go do it, because you have some reinforcements there at running back. I guess the other question that would come to mind to me is, we talked about some of the younger guys, Devon Rice, Montario Elston. Like, who do you feel like has the best opportunity, DY, to step up and contribute a little bit that is outside of those 3?
I don't know yet. Like that's why you had to go out and get Martin. I haven't heard anything bad, so I'll start there. Don't take this as super negative if you're a fan and think, oh man, they're not panning out. But I haven't heard anything to suggest that either 3 of those are ready for the bright lights just yet.
If I was gonna, you know, maybe a little stab in the dark here. I mean, he's a true freshman, but he is here for spring ball. Like, I think Montario Elston might have the higher ceiling out of those 3, the 2 redshirt freshmen, and then him, the running back out of Arkansas. I don't know. I'm curious to see how he does, but JB Price would probably be the other one. I mean, Devon Rice got some. He returned a couple kicks last year. He's obviously a speed guy, and maybe you could figure out some creative ways to utilize him, running back out of Nevada, out of high school, but I don't know. Like, I'm curious to see Montario Elston. I think he's a talented. I mean, you speak about another running back built like kind of a bowling ball. I mean, thick, strong running back with some bursts and some moves. And so eager to see him. And then JB Price is a bigger running back, obviously out of Blue Valley up here. that can bring some physicality to the running back room. But yeah, I don't know. We those three are kind of unknowns for us. And
wasn't there? Am I wrong? Wasn't there some real buzz at one point last year for Rice?
I mean, he got on the field. I'm going to temper any expectations there for the moment.
Okay. Well, I could, I'm looking back at Elston's recruiting profile now, remembering, I mean, we got Arkansas, Mizzou, Georgia Tech offers here. So,
yeah,
I do get the point that you're making there, Cole, with some real upside with his recruiting profile.
Who returns kicks and punts for K-State this year? Do you think it's going to be Dylan? Wait, I mean, we're talking about running back depth. Is it? Are Dylan out there?
It probably has to be, right? I mean, you can't not utilize that weapon there.
You realize, I mean, when at times they didn't put him back there, even last year, like us and everyone else kind of crucified them. So I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if not.
Well, they don't. I mean, who would the other options even be? I mean, the wide receiver room's built with bigger guys other than Jace.
Well, Sterling Lockett did it last year.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just trying to transition us to special teams to piss John off. So
with Sterling Lockett was basically the guy who go out there, fair catch it. He's not going to drop the ball. So I don't know if that necessarily even counts. And I was trying to think of who else took reps last year.
Well, Rice is probably cut out for it, right?
Rice did it a little bit last year. Jacob Parrish and Keegan Johnson took reps, and they're both gone.
Yeah, it's probably Dylan and Rice.
What about VJ Payne's in that 23-mile-an-hour club, right? I mean, just throw him out there.
VJ Payne is terrible hanging, so we've seen that on defense. So,
but the big safety and then that Donovan McIntosh, 6'3" corner guy.
I've got it. Have Sterling Lockett catch the ball. He'll run over to wherever the ball's at, and then just have VJ Payne tail him, and then hand it to VJ, and then he can go run from there.
This is Nate Katzer. This is the guy that's criticizing you, and this is the concepts he's coming up with.
Excuse me. This seems very innovative to me. Listen, I'll infuse some good. Pay me, like a third of a coordinator salary, a special teams coordinator salary. I know that's not actually his title, but pay me a third of Nate Katzer's salary, and I'll come in the room and give them some creative ideas like this.
I could see what I was going to say. Oh, I could see Bryce Nuremberg back there a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think he returned a kick against Cincinnati or two. He was back deep, so because that was the game Dylan wasn't. I think at that game.
I'd imagine the guys in the discussion are Dylan Edwards, Davon Rice, Bryce Nuremberg, Sterling Lockett, and Montario Elston.
Yeah, shout out to Bryce Nuremberg, Olathe South kid from my neck of the area. So John's joke. Yeah, see, so predictable after doing this show for 3+ years.
You mean from Houston High School?
It's funny because I have my dad has asked me before it because he doesn't get it. He's like, why does John bring up like the South jokes like about you? It's like I get people that ask that, they don't understand. So yeah,
because me living in Overland Park, it takes me 3 hours to drive to Cole's house, which I guess is still technically considered in the Kansas City metro area.
That's right. Well, I'll come over to John's house sometime, and
Cole's been saying that since I lived in my apartment downtown for a couple of years, and it never once happened.
Well, downtown, that's just a different animal for me, like, I don't know, parking, everything. That's really venturing out for me.
Yeah. Okay. Right. That you know what, that is true. That's pulling you out of your element, and I get it. You got 3 kids. That's a lot for a guy with 3 kids to go to the Crossroads. I get it.
Last Crossroads visit I made was to see OAR at the Crossroads back like 10 years ago. So
where in the cross? I mean,
well, it was like I guess. See, that shows that I thought that was like
Crossroads. That's a district. That's
it was an outdoor concert, John. So the area,
probably Grinders. I'm assuming.
Maybe, yeah, that sounds maybe right. It's a beautiful night. So yeah, DY's well, look. We're gonna preview all the different positions.
DY can't get all high and mighty over there. He lived in Lenexa, okay? Let's not act like DY was a cosmopolitan man himself when he was here in Kansas City.
Just silence, do what?
He's not even going to defend Lennox's honor.
Well,
It's nice.
well, guys, look, it's May now. We got football in August with playing week 0 now. So what are we, 4 months out? Well,
3,
4.
3, I think. June, July. Well, yeah, I guess
For May, but
3.5-ish.
It's gonna be weird because then we're gonna cover Big 12 Media Days in Dallas, and like a week and a half later they're gonna be practicing
Yeah.
because they have practicing.
How about that? We got the media day back in Dallas, so maybe we all just drive to it instead of flying to Vegas, huh?
well, maybe the 3 Mall crew will be back in full because you guys were in Vegas last year pulling some content. Well, I took that year off, so
Yeah.
Took a whole year off.
I could probably pull that and be there in Vegas and Dallas with you guys as well. Bring some 3 Mall content to everybody. We're going to preview a lot of football talk coming. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe some basketball too. You never know. Stay up to date on that in the Discord, patreon.com/3ma. If you want to get the updates as they come in, as Harambe's Razor phone gets texts, you will be alerted in the Discord, patreon.com/3ma. Appreciate everybody there. Appreciate everybody for listening to this show. Thank you to our great sponsors. As always, thank you to Nick behind the scenes, and for DY and Cole. I'm John Kurtz. Thanks for listening to another edition of 3Ma. We will talk to you very soon.